Today, on the Angry Catholic Show, we're going to tackle listening sessions don't count as an investigation. Our angry item of the day is, Welcome to Catholic Church, Inc., and the Angry Catholic's Antidote. Welcome. You're listening to The Angry Catholic Show. I'm Paul the Angry Catholic with my wife, Kris. And you can listen to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Google Play, and Spotify. And find us, as always, at theangrycatholic.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating so others will find us. In 2011, my children were put directly in harm's way by my bishop. He allowed a priest to serve that he knew had instances of predatory behavior, and my son served for that priest. The priest was later arrested for abusing a 15-year-old boy. But the catalyst for starting this show was after the Pennsylvania grand jury report came out, I was done. I found no way to discuss in a public format the clerical abuse cover-up, as well as many other important issues facing the church. If you're concerned about these issues, it's very important for us to share this information with everyone. Kris and I, along with a group of supporters, published this show, and we want to ask you for your help by sharing the show. You can email it, post it on social media, text somebody, or just tell somebody about it. Because if you don't share this information, you can't possibly expect things to change. So here we go. We haven't done a show, just you and I, in a good little while here.
I know, we always have a guest, which is wonderful because we have been blessed with incredible people.
Just amazing guests.
But we got to step up our game today, right?
Yeah. We'll have to. I'll have to actually talk a little more, I think, this time.
You don't want me to talk more?
Yes, I do. I want you to talk more.
Okay.
All right, so we came into this first segment with listening sessions don't count as an investigation. And that's one of my peeves. And as a matter of fact, I just reread that today. And it was actually a link that you sent me that I was reading.
About the listening sessions?
About the listening sessions.
Did you know there were listening sessions in our diocese?
Well, I haven't been to one yet because I haven't heard of one. I don't think you're told about them.
No, apparently on the Diocese of Scranton, the link I sent you, if you go down, apparently right after the PA grand jury report, the bishop did 118 listening sessions at 118 parishes.
Every parish in the diocese?
No, there's 120. Now, we didn't know.
Oh, maybe he missed ours? Is that what you're saying?
There's 2 in our area, and maybe those were the only 2 that didn't have listening sessions. But
what a coincidence.
But in all seriousness, I did research today, and I looked in every way possible, searching to try to find listening session, parish, looking up different parishes, seeing if it would come up.
Nothing.
Archive. I can't find one listening session in the Diocese of Scranton. Wow. So that was apparently one of the best kept secrets.
Well,
because you and I would have been there for a listening session.
What we want to discuss today is, and I know I've mentioned this on several shows and a little bit and a little piece here, but I don't think people even realize that. And I actually asked somebody else today that's very involved in the investigation. Actually, this person's going to be on our show probably next week, but definitely very shortly. And I don't know of anybody that knows of one investigation from a diocese that was conducted properly. I don't know of one. And
now, when you say properly, what do you mean?
What I mean is I have not seen an investigation to date that actually, attempts to dive in deep enough and actually interview survivors, interview anybody that tangentially has anything to do with an abuse case. So that would mean, let's say Father so-and-so brings little Johnny into the rectory every Thursday night at 8 p.m. and walks out at 10 p.m. and passes the cleaning crew that walks by the secretary's office or the cook or anything.
Or the Altar Rosary Society always saw them.
Anybody. And any parish that hasn't heard of the bishop wanting to talk to you in case you know something about this, what that tells me in my book is the bishops don't want to know. They don't want to get to the bottom of this. And that's what's so frustrating for me. I mean, why haven't they interviewed survivors to find out who was involved? We know survivors that literally were never even called. Now, they have no problem having survivors actually have to write, unbelievable amounts of pages of their experience and relive this in order to get, in order for the diocese victims compensation program. But the diocese has never, that I know of, actually investigated who was involved and how this happened. So that tells me they're not serious about ending this.
Well, you're right, because like the victims' compensation, the application, I don't think on that application at all is, did another priest ever come in and witness this? Did a church employee reach out to help you? Did another priest tell you to keep a secret? Sure. You're right, things like that. None of that. But they have to go, all they want to know is specific, private details of the abuse. And but it suggests that they want to still try to couch this to the faithful as this attitude of, these are just some sickos and we're as surprised and as horrified as you are.
We know that's not the case.
And that the reality is, we've been doing this for a year and a half, it's not just some sickos. It's a real sick criminal organization that's covered for some sickos.
Yeah, well, in our case, for example, Bishop Bambera or anybody in the chancery has yet to contact us. And my two sons served for a priest that was arrested with a 15-year-old boy. So you would think, and we're out there for a year and a half. We wrote a letter to the bishop asking him questions about this specific case. He has yet to try to contact us and ask us if we know anything that could be helpful. Right?
To make sure, to see how did this priest for 20 years serve.
Do you think you'd want to have a listening session with me?
I know. No. I don't know that he wants you at the listening session.
Well, I would be there. You can count on
there were
it.
108. There were 118, and we didn't know about them. But the other thing is, and as you talk about with Father Polish's case in particular, I was the person who founded and ran the homeschool organization that was at the parish that he was at. You're right, and I've never been contacted.
Nothing.
No one made me aware. The way I found out that Father Polish was in the car with a pantsless 15-year-old was through the newspaper.
Yeah, that's how we found out about this priest getting arrested that our son served for, and that he was the pastor of that parish. Mm-hmm. So I can't take our bishop, as well as almost every bishop in the country, seriously until they start investigating these things, and we want to know what their part is in it. And if they're completely innocent, that's great, but we want to know what their part is.
Well, they should want to know, like, if you've got a priest in your diocese who maybe is not an abuser, but he's enabled abusers and he's covered for abusers, and he's one of the look the other way, keep going along, going up the chain kind of priest, like, you should want to know that, shouldn't you? You should, if you're serious about ending this problem.
Yeah, I mean, if a bishop was truly interested in getting to the bottom of this sexual abuse cover-up and scandal, whatever you want to call it, they would be hyper-focused on investigating these crimes. Hyper-focused. There would be nothing else that's more of a priority, especially when they talk about this, new evangelization and trying to bring people into the church. How are people going to evangelize and bring people in the church when you won't even answer a specific question that a concerned parent has?
Sure.
I mean, how do you do that? Like, how is that possible? So, I mean, one of the things that really irritates me is our bishop has no problem pointing out how state-of-the-art our diocese is in the direction that they're going in regard to reporting abuse cases and training 30,000 people in Virtus training.
Employees. He's never had to been trained in Virtus.
But he's yet to investigate one of these cases. So who cares about Virtus training? Who cares about state of the art? Because if I was an abuse victim, or I was able to, share information with a survivor, the first thing I would tell them is, don't you dare go to the diocese.
I know.
That's the first thing I would tell them.
Absolutely.
I would say, go to the police, go to the attorney general, go anywhere you can find help first before you even breathe to the diocese, because they're just want to gather information to help them build a case and put you into as best I can tell, put you in a category where you qualify for money.
And hopefully,
and that's
try
not
to
what these survivors want.
Mitigate any financial responsibility
right.
and protect their
absolutely,
their assets.
They deserve every penny that they get, but that is not what they're looking for.
No, absolutely there's not. And to say it just drives me so bonkers. My head's ready to explode when I have to hear I've trained 30,000 people with Virtus training. You know what? What Virtus training does is tries to alert you to creepy behavior. People reported the creepy behavior. People, in fact, recorded the abuse. People reported the fact they were sodomized by these men. Yeah. It's never been a reporting problem. The problem, there were many red flags, many, many, many red flags. They didn't care.
Well,
they didn't care to protect.
That makes me think of, I'm trying to think of the priest's name down in D.C., the sting operation those kids had to do.
Riedlinger. Father Riedlinger.
Father Matthew Riedlinger, right?
Monsignor Rossi's friend that he pushed on everyone.
Yes. So this group of students, or was it former students by that point?
I don't know. I think they were actual students, though.
Yeah. So they went and tried to share their information because of this priest.
With the Diocese of Trenton.
Yes, because of this priest. Bishop. So because they couldn't find anyone in the diocese, or I think even at that point, law enforcement wouldn't help him at that point.
Because there's not
sure.
much they could do. He was just harassing these students, sexually harassing them.
Yeah,
and they were over the age of 18. So law enforcement couldn't do anything yet. But what the young men did is they did go to the bishop, and the Diocese of Scranton was not responsive, and in fact put him in a parish around kids and young men. So these young men set up the sexting sting
so they had
on their own.
They had to, on their own, set up their own private investigation and do a sext sting through their phone, and they actually caught this guy.
Because he thought he was sexting a 16-year-old.
Right.
And then
a 16-year-old boy.
A 16-year-old boy. Yeah. And then the police got involved, and the Diocese of Trenton, I guess, got him some treatment, and he ended up leaving. He was put on leave, and he stayed in Monsignor Rossi's beach house. And he's no longer a priest now. He's no longer an active priest, which, is a shame. And I hope that he can get himself together and be a faithful young man.
Well, not harass anybody.
No, absolutely. I want him to get himself together, obviously. But these boys had to do it all, right?
One of the things I wanted to propose, or at least discuss a little bit, is as far as an investigation goes, what would our objectives be if, we found ourselves, in a role like a bishop or a vicar of clergy or a high...
You're going to spell it out real... I think you need to make it specific, because apparently
what would
you're a little clueless.
What would you want to find out in an investigation?
Yeah, what would be proper?
The first thing I would want to find out is who's involved. Because I think until you find out who's involved in any level,
mm-hmm.
I don't think you're not gonna get the outcome you want,
or the full picture.
And that's the one thing that they do zero on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't investigate that at all. Like, we don't know how. Like, we're starting to kind of see how it developed and some of the people involved, but it would be very important to me as a bishop to know who was involved, because any issues that the like tangential people, the ones that are the secretary, or like I said, the cleaning crew, or anybody surrounding that environment, I'm sure there's red flags that maybe on their own might not set off sirens, but when you add them all together, I think you'd have a complete picture, and you'd be able to tell that, oh my gosh, like this priest knew what was going on, and this so-and-so knew what was going on, and then these people need to be, if they're still working in the diocese, they need to go. Because anybody tangentially involved needs to go. That's part of
it, is the level. Sometimes there might be some people who it's not that the person, they were involved, they missed things. Maybe it is not that the person didn't care or the person didn't see anything wrong with it. Sometimes it just might be incompetence. But for goodness sake, when people's incompetence leads to innocent people being abused, the person needs to go.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
The person needs to go.
And another thing that I think would be important in an investigation like this is you have to get rid of the fear of repercussion from you speaking out. And I think that's a big obstacle right now.
Absolutely,
and I know
is.
the bishop would say, no, we would never do that.
Always full of it.
And the vicar general personally told me that we would never do that. But I know from speaking to many priests that there is fear when they think about speaking out.
Oh, they're taught from, we know this now. The formation in the seminary is you're taught, put your head down, get through, just stay focused, don't look at other things, don't make waves, don't make problems, don't question too much. Like they're trying to, they're forming them from the get-go that way. And to keep an environment, frankly, of corruption, an environment where evil is allowed to flourish.
Sure. I mean, we know personally of several examples of priests that literally were just either critical of the bishop, or they spoke out on something that the bishop didn't like. Like, for example, hypothetically, if a priest were to say something negative about the CCHD, if you've listened to the show,
the Catholic
you know,
Campaign for Human Development that does nothing to help humans.
Garbage fund, and you shouldn't give your money to that because of where that money goes. And if you want to find out details about that, go on lepantoin.org, and you can get your fill of information on that. And because Michael Hitchborn is the president of Lepanto Institute, and he's been on, and we've talked extensively about that. But we know of personally, we know of cases where they've either been screamed at, they've been disciplined, or literally put to pasture.
Yep.
Gone. They no longer have their priestly faculties. And it is that's disgusting. You know?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. I think the other thing, too, in today's day and age, all bishops, they just need to have some thick skin, for goodness sake. Like this oversensitivity at being criticized. Like you are at the head of a diocese, the majority of them, where you've had massive, massive scandals and massive hurt, like debilitating hurt and wounding of like faithful people and innocent people. And to sit there and not think that you should be questioned or criticized, or that if the minute you don't like someone's tone or what they say, oh, that's not charitable, oh, that's detraction, or that, it's like, you know what, put a muzzle on, get some thick skin, and care and fix it, like actually fix it.
Well, the question that keeps running through my mind is if a bishop was truly interested in finding out the truth, I mean, would he behave in that manner? He just wouldn't. So I know we tend to get focused on, these specific things, and we talk about them in detail, and in the media, they get blown out of proportion in some instances. But when you really take a step back and look at all the behaviors, I mean, would a bishop behave in this manner if he really was focused on getting to the bottom of any of this?
No, and I'm going to say no because I'm going to think as a parent for a moment. I'm a mom, you're a dad. If my child, so you think a survivor is one of your spiritual children if you're a bishop, right? It's one of your children that was hurt by one of your other children, in your family, or in a sense. So if one of my children was so wounded and so hurt, and partly out of love for me and my family in this faith, I know when you're a parent and you're watching your child hurting, like at that moment, you don't get so sensitive about your feelings. You think, if there's any way that I can feel this hurt, like take it from them, let me feel the hurt. Let me be the one suffering. And that's sometimes the hardest thing for a parent is your child suffers and you can't take the suffering from your kid. But any parent normally, right? You would, if you could take the suffering and feel it, so they had it. So. That's just normal.
I mean, as a father, though, you just want to, beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first reaction as a
so
father is when, if another kid is harming another one, you just want to pop them.
Yeah. So we have fathers that didn't want to hurt the people hurting their kids. We have bishops doing that. And then we have the man-made part of the church that didn't want to suffer at all, or to take some of the suffering from their kid who's hurting. It's just such a perverse relationship.
Sure. Well, to finish up this segment, I want to share with you something Michael Bauman, who is a survivor. He's in the grand jury report, the Pennsylvania grand jury report. And he said something that, we'll never forget.
It was so profound.
Yeah, he said, I had to keep my secret by myself for 30 years. Father Gibson had help in keeping his.